Welcome back to the Frontier Western Heritage Channel. I'm Todd Kessner here outside of Tucson, Arizona, and today we're going to talk about the second trip to the range with the Pedersoli 1886 in 4570. Well, there's two reasons why I'm telling you this and not showing you this. And normally, obviously, we'd be out at the range and I'd be able to show you every step that we went through, getting another trial run, trying to tighten up the groups on that 4570 that came in the 1886 remake by Pedersoli. And the reason I'm talking to you about it and not at the range with it is twofold. One, it was a very, very windy day, which makes you think, well, why were you even trying to sight something in during a windy day? But it was a day that I had some availability. I was able to get to the range. I was able to work. And during that windy day, there were times where the wind would let up and I'd be able to shoot, and then it would pick up again. I'd wait to be able to shoot a little bit later. So it worked out, but it didn't work out with the camera because when the wind picked back up again, there was a threat of knocking the camera over. I mean, it was pretty stiff. It knocked the target down. They had to run down and set a bunch of rocks on the target stand and then come back and shoot some more. So the wind didn't really affect the sighting in because I waited for dull moments in between wind gusts, but it didn't allow me to set the camera up, leave it up. I had to take it up and down. Anyway, I finally just gave up and said, I'm just going to shoot this thing. I'm out here. I'm going to try to get this tightened up a little bit in the groups that I had and sighted in a little bit better as well. And the second reason that I am telling you this and not showing you this is because, as many of you know, the way that you adjust open sights is with a pin, brass pin, and a hammer. And so if you want to take your gun to the right, it was shooting to the left if you remember from the first video. If you want to take your gun to the right, you knock your rear sight to the right. And when you do that, if your front sight stays where it is, and you knock your back sight to the right, well, then to put your front sight, get the alignment back, the front of your barrel goes to the right, and you shoot further to the right. And so you use a pin and a hammer, and this is what I've used. It's a light hammer and a brass pin so you don't mar things up. And I could move that sight a little bit to the right. It was not doing the trick, and so you go to the front sight, which I did. And actually, if I want to go to, on the front sight, if I want to go to the right, this is counterintuitive, but if I want to go to the right, I knock that front sight to the left, and I did a little bit of that too. That being, again, if we have lined up our sights, our sight alignment, and we move the front, pardon me, to the left, and I want to get it realigned, well then I move that front back in line with the rear sight, and I've just gone to the right. So that's just the opposite on that front sight. Both of them were difficult to move, which is good because you don't want to sliding around. But I would have to take this brass pin and the hammer and just move that sight over a little bit at a time. Believe it or not, in the world of YouTube, that is modifying a firearm. And that is against the rules. And I would have loved to have shown you how I tapped that sight over. You could have seen the progress on that. It doesn't take much, really. But to show that in their eyes at YouTube is modifying a firearm, like I said. Now, I've listened to some of the videos of other folks that are doing firearm-related videos and black powder-related videos as well. One being Mike Bellevue, who has been in YouTube trouble for just things that you shouldn't even think were a problem at all. Building a black powder musket from scratch and doing the stock and doing the barrel, and then it's like they consider that building a ghost gun, even if it's a flintlock from the late 1700s. And there's somebody with 125,000 subscribers, and YouTube is picking on them about really perfectly legitimate things, as far as legitimate being there's nothing wrong with doing it. It's just part of the firearm world, adjusting sights, putting this on, putting that on, but they treat it as if you're modifying a firearm. And so I'm thinking if somebody with 125,000 viewers and subscribers is getting in trouble, myself with 15,000, I'm nothing. They could squish me like a bug, and I'm really very, very appreciative of having, I never dreamed I'd have 15,000 subscribers. That's just you guys being very kind but still, compared to some of these big ones like Duelist 1954, Mike Bellevue has 125,000 subscribers. They're pushing him around. I even went in and listened to Hickok 45, and he's got 3.5 million subscribers and YouTube is messing around with him as well. And so if they're going to mess around with somebody with over 100,000 or 3.5 million, and I don't know about all the other channels, you guys out there doing these same things, but again, I don't want to be seen as adjusting or manipulating a firearm in any way that would be something that YouTube didn't like, and then you get a channel strike or they take you off the air. So again, I can tell you about it, but I couldn't do it, and so that's one of the reasons that I just didn't film as I was adjusting those sights. Well, that trip to the range, even in gusty wind conditions and all the things that I went through trying to sight this gun in, when there was a calm time, and it lasted sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes half an hour, but when there was a calm time and I was able to really concentrate on my front sight and try to sight this thing in, I did a whole lot better than I did previously. And so I kept the target. I was going to show folks just two different things here, and I'll put this up on the screen so you can see it as well. I used the hammer down ammo from Federal, which is a 300 grain copper jacketed bullet, and I got a 1.5 inch group, and then I went to the Winchester Super X and I got a 2-inch 3-shot group. I was doing 3-shot group just so that I wasn't expending that much ammunition, but my target looked a whole lot better. And you can ask, well, why is it that the second time out you shot so much better than the first time out, and the second time out even had some weather related types of issues, challenges that had to be overcome in order to shoot accurately? And there are a couple of things. One is that the first time that I went out with this particular gun, I swabbed the barrel. You know, it was a new gun. I swabbed the barrel. It looked pretty clean, and went out and fired it. Came back and I cleaned it again, and it very quickly cleaned up from the powder residue. But then I had this little tube of bore paste, and I thought, I'm going to try this and see if it, if it picks up anything else. So I put a little bore paste on a patch and ran that up and down the barrel. And not only did I get more carbon powder fouling than I did previously when I first went out, before I first went out, but I also started pulling out some other looking stuff, and it became very evident that the cosmoline, that waxy like grease that is put on a firearm while it's in storage or while it's in shipment, was still very present in the barrel. So after going in several different swabs with that bore paste, pulling up and down, it started changing color from the carbon to really the cosmoline, and I started pulling that stuff out. I was surprised, honestly, what a difference that bore paste made on that swab. I mean, I cleaned for a long time, and you wouldn't believe all the stuff that came out of that barrel. And so that was after the first time that I shot it, came back, used that bore paste, cleaned up that barrel, and then went back out again the second time with a much cleaner barrel than I had previously. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me to use bore paste the first time. It was a new gun. It maybe had been test fired. That was all. I put a patch up and down the barrel and thought I was good. So a little short-sighted on my part, but then when I came back from that first day out there, man, that really made a difference. The barrel was much cleaner than it was the first time out, and it was very evident with the bore, using the bore paste. And the second reason I think I did much better the second trip out is just comes right down to practice. And as you know, shooting is a diminishing or diminishable skill, and the longer you're away from it, the more the skill slips away from you. And it'd been about a year with the move from Montana to Arizona, getting reestablished, all that. It'd been about a year since I had been out on the range and shot any rifle at all. I think it was maybe the 38-55 even was the last one that I attempted to shoot at the range. And so it'd been a while, and you do lose your skill. And when you've got open sights, you know how important that sight alignment is, and you've got to hold that front sight exactly in the same place that you did the last time, from shot to shot. So you got to keep that very consistent. You got to really concentrate on the front sight. How high do you have it in the sights? Make sure that it's centered. All those types of things. It's just fundamental open sight shooting. But it's a variable you don't need to worry about when you're shooting a scope. You've got to put an X on a target a little bit easier. You're not worried so much about sight alignment. You still got to have skill, trigger pull, breathing, all that sort of stuff. But with the open sights, you've got sight alignment that needs to be done properly. And when you're thinking about other things like, I haven't experienced the recoil on this gun yet, I don't know how hard and how far to pull the trigger before the trigger breaks and the gun goes off. You got to get used to that trigger pull. You've got to get used to how the firearm acts and just behaves when you fire it. So hadn't had experience with any of that, and picked up that experience that first time out. Felt a little more comfortable with the gun the second time out, and that allowed me to shoot much better. And I would have the rifle and I'll be holding it and talking about it while I was holding it, except for my son's got it in Montana getting ready for deer and elk season, which starts very soon. So we got it plenty sighted in for 100 or 200 yards, and he's going to be in good shape using open sights this season. So I'm sorry that I couldn't take you out to the range with me because of the weather conditions and my target blowing down and my camera threatening to blow down, which would have destroyed that. And also YouTube not allowing me or anybody to manipulate the sights and open sights because it's considered modifying a firearm, and they consider it not a good example. And you know, it's a silly thing, but that's the way it is. And YouTube owns the channel and Google owns the channel, and they do what they're going to do, and so you just got to live within their rules. And so I'm doing a boring inside the house report on my second trip to the range, but we'll take it out again once hunting season is over with, and really get her dialed in a little bit better with some reloads and just play with that gun a little bit more and just build up that practice and try to build that skill back. We'll be going out to the range here pretty soon with a couple of videos. I picked up a Remington Police. It's a cartridge conversion revolver, takes 38 rim fire, and also got a Henry rifle I want to test out at the range. And so more videos coming up. Please stay tuned, and we'll be back out there on nicer days and better weather. And it's finally getting cooler here in Arizona. It's dropping below 100 degrees nearly every day, and that feels pretty good. It's going to make a better experience out in the field as well. So we'll have more things coming your way, but for now, I just want to thank you for coming. Patch and ran that up and down the bar. And after multiple swabs of going with the cream and then the boar paste, when you spend that much time away from shooting, obviously you've lost your competitive edge, or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it that. So I had maybe I already said all this.